Hi, and welcome to Transparent with Tina. I am Tina Marx, your host. Today, I am interviewing two guests at the same time. I've never done this before, and actually how it came about is even a little bit stranger. I didn't know that I was going to be interviewing two guests until 15 minutes before the interview. And I've got to be honest with you, at first I was like, what do you mean I'm interviewing two guests? And it went from that to kind of freak out mode to going, well, I'm not prepared. I mean, I'm not prepared for this second guest. Should I reschedule? And, I know that my first guest is extremely busy. So it was difficult to even get him in my schedule. And I thought, well, if I reschedule, then I might not be able to get him back in my schedule. And then all of a sudden I had a moment of clarity because I've been listening to Grant Cardone's book, The 10X Rule. And I was just listening to it a couple hours prior. And he was talking about coming from a place of yes. And oftentimes our best opportunities are presented to us when they're not in our schedule, when they are just, dropped in our lap. And, he says, what does he say? He says, you know what, just take it and figure out the rest later. So I thought to myself, well, I have a couple choices here. And you know what? That one really resonated with me. And I said, I've never done this before. We're just going to see how it goes. I'm going to relax into it. And so I did. So I'm really proud of myself. And I'm really so glad I did this interview. It was so much fun. It was such a learning experience talking to these two amazing individuals. And so we are going to bring them up next. My first guest, he is a magician. He is an illusionist. He's a host, comedian, and actor. And she is a host, actress, and a dancer. Up next, Murray Sawchuck and Dani Elizabeth. Welcome. You too. I was a big surprise today, Dani Elizabeth and Murray Sawchuck. I'm so happy to have you both here today. So as I was telling you both, this is my first time doing two people at one time. And, at first I was like a little freaked out and I went, you know what? If it comes to you, just say yes. That's what I'm like learning about it. At first I was like, oh no, what am I going to do? Just being transparent.
Thanks for having us on. Excited to be on.
What's that?
We're excited to be on with you. So
good. I'm glad to have you both on. So what we're going to do, I've just kind of figured this out, is, I'm going to ask you a couple questions. We're going to kind of alternate, maybe the same questions for both of you. Okay. So let's just start off with you. You're an illusionist, a magician, a comedian, an actor, and a host. Okay.
Yes.
That's quite a bit of talent in a lot of different directions. So which one came first for you?
Well, I think for me, realistically, when I started in the business, I started when I was 5 years old. And I played the accordion and Ukrainian dance, because my background is Ukrainian, half Scottish. So my dad got me involved with that along with my mom. And so that was kind of my first touch into the entertainment business. I danced for like 11 years. I liked it, but I found other interests, I like music more. And then I love magic. Just for some reason, I just thought it was super cool. So so I kind of got into that in my late, 7 or 8 years old. But when I really got into it, when I started actually doing birthday parties and making money, was when I was like 12 or 13. So, and then from then on, I haven't really looked back.
So how did you do that? I mean, did you go to school for that? I mean, magic is not, something you just kind of, hey, let's just kind of practice this trade. In fact, I watched your YouTube video about the homeless person you helped. Yeah. And I was like, how in the hell did he do that? You got to, right? When we get off here, you got to tell me how you did that.
Yeah, it's magic. I got into it. I did magic because, I like school. I wasn't the greatest in school. I could have been if I wanted to be. I just was very street smart about stuff. As a kid, I started working at the age of 11. I worked at a bakery and made pie shells for the bakers in the evenings. So when they came in the mornings, they'd have stuff and pastries to fill and work on. So after school, I'd always found different ways of making money. I had a paper route. And back in the old days, and I say old days meaning 80s, is that I had a paper route, and every paper that was included in my paper, like a Dillard's flyer or a Sears, I'd get half a cent more because it'd be a heavier paper to deliver. At the same time, the Commodore 64 computer was invented, and I also used a program called Print Shop. And we had one computer in our elementary school that we could use for 15 minutes or 30 minutes, as long as we signed it out for that week. So I would make a Print Shop poster out of the old program. Then I'd go to like a Kinko's in Vancouver, Canada, where I'm from, and make 280 copies. So then when I did my paper route, I would like every year, my dad would make me do leaf raking, grass cutting, or anything else. So I'd actually put flyers in my newspaper going, I'd rake your leaves for 25 bucks a yard, or I'd shovel your snow for 20 bucks a yard inside the newspaper. So I thought, well, I'm already getting paid to deliver it. Why not get paid to deliver it for my own self and make money on the side? And then that came into, as a magician, when I got to being decent enough, I would do the same thing for that. So that's kind of how my entrepreneurship kind of started.
So where did you get this work ethic? I mean, not many kids are like thinking outside of the box there. I mean, did your parents push that? Were they a good example, or was it
Not
like
really.
forced on you?
I just was fascinated that, you could make money anyway. I just thought, I mean, I remember at our church, my family's not super religious, but growing up, went to church on Sundays and all that stuff, raised Christian and all that. And on like once a month, they'd have a swap meet at the church, and people would bring all their old crap and sell it. And I thought, well, that's amazing. You have this old crap in your house and you're going to sell it and people will give you money. So I think that's where I first got the insight to seeing that you could make money, not from working at a department store or the post office or the electric company or whatever people do. So I think I just thought, well, wait a minute, you could trade your skills like the old days, the revolution, for money. And I just naturally did it. So when the first thing I ever remember making money on my own was tell my mom and dad, do you have a lot of old stuff that you don't want? Because I want to set up a table and rent one for $10 at the church rec center and do the swap meet. And my parents thought it was the greatest thing. And I think that's when I really remember learning to make money that way. And then I just transferred that to everything else, raking leaves, shoveling snow, and doing magic.
So was it more out of necessity? I mean, just really to be direct here, did you need to help your family, or was it just you thinking outside of the box and being an entrepreneur at a very young age?
It's just me thinking outside of the box, My parents were very traditional. My dad worked for the railway. He also worked at the Coliseum. My mom worked as a legal secretary until I was born, and then she retired, and she volunteered and raised me. Right. My dad worked. So very peaceful family.
And, when I have my clients, it's always about the why. Why did you want to make that money? Why did you want to make the money raking the leaves or this or that? I mean, what was the idea in your head to do with that money?
I think for me, it was because my first thing is I wanted to have a car. I wanted independence. I loved cars. I wanted a car at the age of 10 or 11, you know what I mean? To drive and do stuff. And I loved cars. My dad had a bunch of old cars. So that was my goal as a kid, going, okay. And after that, I thought I'll buy a house. And then I just wanted a lot of things in my life to be secure, And I was raised an only child, so I wasn't spoiled like typical only children are, at least, generically there.
Yeah, because mine is.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect. See? So, but whereas Dani, she has other siblings. So she was raised a little differently.
I always say he was an only child, so he must have been really bored all the time. So he had to do things like work to keep himself busy.
Dani, that's very true. So Dani, you have two siblings? Is that what you said? Okay. Yeah. And that's very true. Cause I'm a single mom. My son just turned 17 and, I always say two is easier than one, because I was the playmate and, now he's graduating a year early, and it's like, I feel this pressure on, cause he doesn't want to go to college. He's trying to figure out what to do, So I guess that, let's just kind of go there. Dani, how did you find your purpose?
Well, I guess when I was younger, my mom is a single parent of 3 kids, and she always thought it was really important for us to be involved in every physical activity there possibly was, so that we could, experience different hobbies and things that we like, so that we could dabble about and find something that, hopefully we like, that we wanted to carry on doing. So when we were little, I did everything from ballet, which I obviously stuck that route because I'm still a performer and a dancer, to swim team, dive team, basketball, soccer club, almost everything, track for a little while, until my ballet teacher was like, that is really not good for your turnout. I appreciate if you stop.
Right. You can't do both. Yeah.
One season. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I fell in love with, and obviously when you're a kid, you can do everything. But when you want to get great at it, you have to spend more time at it. So once I got into middle school, high school, I had to choose. Do I want to do a sport or do I want to dance? And I chose dance. And, from there on, after school, every day I would go to ballet. And then as I got a little bit older, I started taking 2 classes, so 3 to 4 hours every day after school. And then I realized that I after, because a lot of people will do things in high school as a hobby or a sport, and then they're done after 12th grade. And I was like, well, there is no way I can be done. I'm going to go to college. I don't know what the heck I want to study, but I know I want to dance. So I have to do that somewhere.
Right.
So I chose my college based off of the dance team, which was, I'm from upstate New York, and I chose UNC Charlotte because they had a D1 and one of the top 5 dance teams in the country. And
Right.
so I was like, well, I know that'll be really competitive. It'll be good for me. I'll learn a lot. So my first 2 years of school, I went there solely because of the dance team. And then I ended up transferring, but I still danced while I was figuring out, okay, well, I'm in school, I'm spending a lot of money, so I should find something that I really do want to study and graduate with. And so then it led me in another direction. But the whole time I've always danced. And that's what helped me to, 5 years later, start auditioning after school and land a professional job.
Right. And then, so when did you go to Vegas?
I moved to Vegas. It's been about 8.5 years now. So 2012, I lived in LA for 4 years. And at that time, I actually moved there while I was in college because I used my internship that I needed to graduate school with as a way to be able to move. Mm-hmm. So I went and I did an internship because I was studying marketing. And so that turned into a job position. And while I was there, it was just like I was in high school. I would go to work from 8 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. And then I would go into LA and I would take dance classes until about 10 at night. And I'd go home and do it all over again. And then eventually I started auditioning and landed Jubilee, which was the show, my first show here in Vegas at Bally's. And I was up in that show all the way till it ended. So it was about 34 years that the show ran, and I was in it for the last 4.5 years. And so right from there, I jumped over to Crazy Girls, where now I host the show, which is a completely new experience. And I got extremely lucky and very grateful for, the producers of the show giving me the opportunity and encouraging me, because as a dancer, you never think about a moment that you're going to speak on stage. But he was like, you love to talk. You're from upstate New York. You're Italian. You're probably going to be good at this. And I was like, okay, if you think so, let's do it.
Right.
Just say yes, like you said earlier. Right?
Exactly. I've been listening to Grant Cardone, who's going to be on my show too. And I've been listening to his 10X rule book. I don't know if you guys have heard it. I mean, I cannot get away from it. I'm making meals and I'm still listening to it. And, it's true. If your dream is not big enough, you're never going to go for it. And he's like, I'm scared all the time.
Yeah.
And you know what? Say yes and figure it out later. So I just listened to that part today. I mean, I do believe everything happens for a reason. Everything's in synchronicity. I mean, I'm sitting there going, because, I honestly, transparent, a couple of months ago, I'd probably been like, you guys, we have to reschedule. This is just way too much for me. So you know what? And it's so beautiful the way this is unfolding. So that's amazing. So so you had a purpose, you had a drive, you made it happen. And Murray, you're from Burnaby, actually. My first and only husband, he's from Vancouver, and he said, where do you want to live? I said, I don't want to live in the city. So that's where we lived. And so you made your way from Canada to obviously LA first, or, now you're in Vegas.
I moved to the States in 1999, and I moved there because I was married. My first wife, years ago, when I got married in 99, I moved to Orlando, Florida. So I spent 5 years there.
Uh-huh.
And Orlando was wonderful, but the relationship didn't work out. We're friends now, but it didn't work out. So I had a dream of doing LA TV. I'd already toured the world a lot. I played Europe a lot. So I never really played in Florida. I think I played Disney once for New Year's 2000 and a couple other gigs, and that was it. And things weren't working out for us. So I was like, well, I want to do Vegas or LA. So I just started pitching LA and Vegas to managers, to bookers, producers, and got the opportunity. So I opened up my show, The Frontier, 2002, January 26, 2002. And then I haven't left Vegas. But I like, because I'm close to LA for all the television stuff I do and all that. And then I'm also here in Vegas, which is my regular shows, so it's great.
So when was the moment for both of you that you felt like, you know what? I've really got this. I mean, I know I can be a success at this, because there is that moment. There's that transition period. It's like, can I do it? Can I do it? I'm really going to make a career out of this and really go all the way. So whoever wants to answer first.
Who are you?
I'd say probably for me, because I think every performer has a different story. And like Murray said, he worked on cruise ships for 18 years, and he started when he was little. I always danced, but never in a professional sense until after I went to school and I was working like a 9 to 5 in marketing in LA. And finally, when I decided that I was going to audition, and it took me about 1.5 years of different auditions, and certain things I got close but didn't nail them. When I booked Jubilee and I moved out here, that first month of rehearsals was up and down. I was like, oh man, am I doing the right thing? Like, I should just move back to LA and get a grown-up job. and then once I got in and I got the swing, and I was like, okay, I know what I'm doing. I know what I can do. I know what I have to offer. Like, I want to ride this wave, because once you get a taste of it, it's really hard to walk away from it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like God, I think God puts a stamp on your heart. And I think, when you find, what your purpose is, if it doesn't go away.
Yeah.
Because like for me, I failed and I walked away for years and I kept coming back, and I'm not young. I mean, I just turned 58 in November. So, and it's like,
God, this is amazing.
Thank you.
Wow.
And I'll share it with you. Good eating lifestyle. You look amazing though too. But seriously, you know what I've also heard too? When you carry a lot of light, you look younger. Isn't that true? I mean, if you love life and life loves you back, you look young, you aesthetically look younger. Okay. So, I mean, this show, as you know, is about entrepreneurs, how they made it, their struggles and everything else, how you found your purpose, and, all the challenges. So what would you say, Dani, what was your biggest challenge when you said, maybe I should go back and get a regular job? Okay. Because I talk in my first book about, there's, everybody says, what's your plan B? Okay. Right. And in my book, I say, I don't believe in a plan B, because if you believe in a plan B, your plan A wasn't strong enough. That really wasn't your purpose.
Right. And I guess that's pretty much what it comes down to, is that I didn't have a plan B. And that's the only sentence that I ever said to myself in the first month that I was out here, and things were roller coaster up and down. And just because it was like fish out of water, it was a completely new experience for me. So I was like, oh, I had that moment. Maybe I go back to LA and get a real job. Well, I was there for 4.5 years. And after my marketing job, because the company was a startup and went under, I used that opportunity because I wasn't happy doing that all day, every day. I knew I had a different purpose. So I just did odd end jobs and continued dancing. So as soon as that first month went through my head, I'm like, it would fly right out. So I'm like, well, that's not an option. So, pull up your bootstraps and go downstairs and rehearse for another 2 hours.
Right on. I love that. How about you, Murray?
Well, for me, I started doing magic series when I was 13. And so I did, I had ads out in papers, and I had a business line in my bedroom, because at that time, internet wasn't around. So you had a Yellow Pages ad. And to have one, you needed a business line. You couldn't use your regular house line. So I had an ad, and of course, the shows I couldn't do, I would book out. And I realized, wait a minute, I'm not going to just pass this show to a friend of mine. I'm going to take 10%. So I basically ran an agency for the shows I couldn't run. So I was making money on shows I couldn't do. So I really learned just naturally how to make money that way. And then as I went through school and I got my degree in broadcast and radio and television, just as that plan B, because my parents wanted that. And I thought, all right, well, they're going to pay for my education. I'll do that.
God, you've done a lot. You went through broadcasting.
Yeah, I have a degree in radio and television. Yeah, broadcasting.
Okay, I'm not going to ask you how old you are, but anyway, go ahead. It doesn't seem like you could be that old to have gone through all.
You're right. So I did that just to appease my parents. And also I like radio. And I thought, well, I got to get a real job where I can work in Vancouver, or I can do something that's good to fall back on. I like being on the air. I like talking to people, all that stuff. So I have that, but I didn't want to go to some small town of 800 people and make, $800 a month, because I'd already, at this point, when I was 19, when I graduated through college and all that, so I graduated high school when I was 17. And so, not because I was smart, it was because my birthday's in November. It just kind of ran that way,
What's your birthday?
November 25th, 73.
Okay, so you're right after me. You're not a Scorpio, you're a...
Yeah.
I am.
She's Scorpio, yeah.
You're a Scorpio?
November 19th.
I'm the 13th, sister.
Yeah.
So,
Passion. Guess what? I just had a psychological astrologer, Dr. Freed, I'm a triple Scorpio. And I'm a tiger in the Chinese zodiac. Wow. I'm like, seriously, what did you forget up there?
Wow.
Great for entrepreneurship, not a lot, not for good for relationships, that's for sure. But yes, that's my life path, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So anyway,
So I did the whole Yellow Pages birthday party thing, because the only way to make a lot of money in a city like Vancouver, when you're not David Copperfield or Houdini, is to do birthday parties, do corporate shows, and I was doing 3,000 or 4,000 a month at that age. It was pretty good money. And, and I thought, well, that's pretty good. But I really wanted to be more popular. I kind of want to be famous. I love people on TV. I kind of wanted that as well with it. And this is way before the Kardashians. I was watching Knight Rider. That's who I wanted to be, and all these other shows, And so nowadays, I think everyone wants to be a Kardashian and realize how hard it is to be a Kardashian. But anyways, so I did all that. And then I wanted a bit more. So I started picking myself to cruise ships, international hotels, like in Japan and Asia, because I realized my look was a little bit different. I had blue eyes, blonde hair, and then I was getting better at magic. I'd won some awards. So then finally I got this opportunity when I was like 20. I sent this guy who was a big agent in town, and he had no reason to book me. So I really wasn't that good, but he booked me on a cruise ship, and it was for $1,100 a week, American. And I was Canadian at the time, still am, but that's where I was living. So, $1,100 at that time, American is about 1,800, almost 2,000 Canadian, which that's a lot of money a week.
Right.
For anybody, especially somebody at 20. And I thought, oh my God, here we go. And I got offered a 2-month contract in a cruise ship leaving Montreal to New York and back. And he said, I need you to have 2 45-minute shows and a 15-minute, and they all have to be different. Do you have that?
Was this for magic or was this for comedy?
Magic. Yeah. Okay. For touring, yeah, with my show.
Okay.
So do you have 2 45-minute shows and a 15-minute extra? And I said, of course I do. I barely had 45 minutes of adult material. But I hung up the phone, and it was on a Tuesday, and he says, great, you're going to get on the ship on a Friday. And I almost fell over because I thought, I don't have any material. I barely have 45 minutes, and most of it's for kids. But I thought, this is my opportunity. I'm going to say yes. And I've always lived by that. Always say yes. The minute you say no, you shut that avenue off. If somebody calls you, say yes. You can always call back a day or two later and say, you know what, not the right fit, or it's not going to work for me or whatever. So the minute you say no, you cut all opportunity off. And I've always felt that in my life ever since I was a kid. So I've always said yes. And then later on, sometimes I go, you know what, maybe can't do it. You know what I mean? But anyway, so I said yes, and I bought a bunch of magic I didn't have any clue how to do, but I knew I had enough for that cruise from Montreal to New York. Because there's different passengers, 7 days down, and you have a new 7 group of passengers, 7 days back to Montreal. So it's a 2-week cruise. So, but some of the passengers that are on the ship, they stay for 2 weeks, not 1 week. So that's why you needed 2 sets of material, because there's people coming back to your show.
Right. So they don't want to say the same thing. Yeah.
That's right. So, which is great, because it really forced me to get good at a lot of stuff I wasn't. So literally, there's a big magic shop in New York City called Tannen's Magic. It was the biggest one in the world at the time. And you had to buy it from a catalog on a phone, because once again, no internet. And so I called them. I opened this catalog, and I probably bought $1,000 worth of material, just stuff that I knew would work if I learned it. So that trip going down to New York, I did the show that I knew and put together the stuff as adult-like as I could. And I got the stuff at the pier in New York City. And I had 3 days before my next show going back to Canada. And I learned all this material and put this next 45-minute show going back to Montreal. And looking back now, I'm sure it was crap, but I didn't blow any of the tricks, and I made enough. And from then on, I actually extended my contract 5 more times. And I spent 7.5 months on the ship. And that's when my moment was, I knew I could do it. And I figured
that's when because you push yourself way beyond your limits. It's like,
oh my God.
I think, you know what? I don't think the universe ever asks you more than you can deliver. Do you agree? I mean, we're the ones who put the limits on ourselves. I mean, if it's being asked of you, it's obviously you can do this. And so, I think this is, I want you guys to speak to this, because, this is a lot of what this show is about. I mean, I want to, my audience, I want to bring hope back into them. I want, people to find their purpose. And that's why I bring all different kinds of guests on here, because if they're going, I don't know what my purpose is, maybe by listening to you, they're going to be like, oh, I never thought about magic. Oh, I never thought about dancing or hosting a show or being in a show. And then how you overcome it and your mindset of it all, right? I mean, it's like, breaking through those barriers. So so what was the worst? You've already kind of said, Dani, I mean, was that the absolute worst for you? Were you ever like on the floor crying, going, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. My body, my mind, I'm just done, because I've been there.
For sure. And at different moments, because sometimes even though you're doing something that you love, doesn't mean that you're going to run into another little hurdle in the road 3 years into doing it. And towards the end of Jubilee, I honestly thought that I was done dancing and I was done performing because our very last show, that whole week or 2 weeks, I had something called plantar fasciitis.
Yes.
Which is where the muscle of your heel separates from the bone. And it's like walking on pins and needles and fire all at the same time.
My best friend has that right now.
Yes, it's terrible. And I was doing everything right, but when you're in heels doing 2 shows a night, just that little break of being out of a sling or cast or what have you, it takes way longer to have the situation heal. So for the very last show, I was going up and down the stairs and using crutches to and from the stage. And our one number that we do is like a kick line number, and we were marching. And I just remember though thinking, like, if this is my last time performing on a stage ever, which maybe it is, I don't know yet. Don't know where I'm at with all of it because there was so much going on. The show was closing out of nowhere. Everybody was emotional and my body was just broken. But I was like, I will be on that stage with everyone. I will close out this night. And there were tears running down because as we were marching out and stomping, it just shooting pains all the way up to my stomach. And I was like, but I don't care. I must be here. And the rest, I'll figure it out later. And so after that show, I actually had gotten a job offer at Crazy Girls. And it was the only show that I auditioned for in town because I saw it and there was just something different and special about it that I was like, okay, well, if I were to still perform, I think that would be the show I'd want to do. So I'll just throw it out there. And, I was kind of 50-50 about if I even wanted to do it. And sure enough, out of all the auditions I've gone to my entire life and hardly got any of them, sure enough, at that lowest point, physically, emotionally, and mentally, I got that show. And so I was like, okay, well, I need to heal this situation. But I need to do this. I can't say no to this. I have to. I felt too, like you just get that feeling in your gut. When your gut and your heart connect, something happens.
Yes. And, I heard you say I threw it out there. So do you set intentions like now daily? I mean, and it works, right? I mean, because this is what I want people to understand. It's like, you either live your life by default, you wake up and let circumstances lead your life. And then you're the victim. And I was there. I mean, I've been all over the place, and now I'm on the other side. And that's why I'm doing this, because you know what? Your life can be joyful. I'm not going to say there's not going to be a lot of challenges and it's not going to take up a lot of your time and you're not going to feel like you're going a little crazy sometimes. But you know what? When you set the intentions and you reach one, and then here's the one thing with my clients is they don't celebrate their wins. And I think that's very, very important to reset, reconnect, and keep going. Because if you just, like I used to be, I'm such a slave driver on myself. I hit my goal and then I'm like, without praising myself, I'm on to the next. And I was talking to my best friend. I'm like, why am I up and I'm down? I'm up and I'm down. She goes, what, like, are you taking time? Like you're depleting yourself.
Right.
Yeah. So what do you guys do to reset? What do you guys do? You have a morning routine? Do you do anything to like get you in the mindset, for the day? Because, every day is challenging, right?
Yeah. I mean, for me, I have a set pattern. I'm a workaholic. So that's my weakest and strongest thing. If you live with me, it's a pain in the ass. You know what I mean? If you're just me, I love it. But you can ask Dani that, I don't slow down and I have a lot of energy and I'm just a workaholic. I like money. I like success. I like doing what I do. And I like waking up in the morning doing what I want to do. You know what I mean? I don't want to work at a Home Depot or a Starbucks, which they're great companies and they have great medical plans. And it's a great form of a living. Well, you're
creative. I mean, no,
it's not who I am. It's not who I am. I could work there and do great, but I want to own the company, not just work there. That's my mindset. That's who I am. I've never changed. That's the way I am.
Right.
So my routine in the mornings, I've always, I wake up, make coffee, and I read a newspaper. I think I'm one of the only people in Vegas that still gets an actual newspaper. And the reason I read a newspaper, not online, is because I don't want to go down a rabbit hole. Online, we get drifted away for hours. So we hit the ad or click the suggested thing. And I like to sit and read newspapers. It's all I got. But you can't take me any further than newspaper. And it paces myself for about half an hour. Because once I'm always in my robe. I live in a robe. But the minute I change and have a shower and shave, and I start the day, that's it. I'm going, because I have a list, and I write a list every night before I go to bed. Actually in ink and pen on a piece of paper. I don't put it in my phone.
Right. Phone, very, very important,
gone.
I think.
Yeah, the whole day is gone to shot if I miss one thing. And with a list, I can actually see before I go to bed. And it could be as small as go to the gym or do the laundry or hang a towel out if it's something that needs to be done, you know. There's something very satisfying with checking something off a list. I love crossing.
Yes, yes, because you don't know how far you've come. You do all this, you do, and unless you check it off, you go, I didn't really do that much.
Yes.
But if you check it off, and one other thing that you said that's very important is doing it the night before, because you know, I don't know, you sound like you just wake up and you're like ready to go. I'm not that gal.
Me either.
I have to get to that place. I wake up with so many thoughts going, oh, you know, I'm just, you know, so I got a morning routine. I got to do my journaling. I got to do my affirmations, my meditation, my visualization. Then I'm there. Okay. But doing it the night before, and that's what I recommend my clients, because then you already have that to go to. If you've got to do that in the morning,
forget it.
Forget it. I'm not doing that. It's too easy to slip out of that, right? Maybe it's a Scorpio thing, Dani.
Yes. A nice thing with a list is, for me, with a list is when you do wake up in the morning, you start thinking of other things, right?
Yes.
Oh my God. So now it becomes too much and you don't do anything. And when you have that list, you go, and like I said, it could be major things, like have a big meeting with a company that might hire you. I mean, it could be some major things in there, but it could be small things like doing the laundry or planting a flower in the backyard that sat in your patio for a month that you've not put in the ground. I mean, it doesn't have to be life-changing things on this list. But when you see that, then when you wake up and go, oh my God, I've got to make sure I buy this present for grandma, or I got to go send this letter to get a job, add that in there. But if you don't do it, at least at the end of the day, you can go, oh, I'm going to bump those till Tuesday.
To the next day. But you said something very important. You said, if there's too much, you won't do anything. I call that paralysis analysis. And I used to live like that.
Yeah.
I would get so overwhelmed. I mean, I would just do nothing. And, you know, this is a very true thing that a lot of people go through. So great input about doing it the night before. Dani, you and I do a morning routine to get in our space, because you know what, if you wake up in the morning, audience, and you don't feel like, you know, Cinderella with the birds coming, putting your bathrobe on. I always put that analogy because I'm like, not happening. It takes work to get there. And once I'm there, I'm there. So, you know, it's just readjusting your mindset. So the two of you now are in a show together, right? Is it at the Luxor?
Yeah, because the way the world's been opening up, as we all know now, it's been slow. And I was lucky because I have two shows. My main resident show is at Tropicana. I've been open since November.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so that's been in November. So we had lower capacities, 35%, 25%. Now we're at 50% capacity. That's been going on because my show's within a comedy club with 350 seats. So we still can do a show with 78 people, make money. We've been selling out since November. Now, our other show we're in is called Fantasy. And I just do a guest spot. I do 10, 15 minutes in the show as the comedy guest act. It's a topless review show, a burlesque show. Been here for 21 years in Vegas. Okay. And since Dani's show isn't back, I'm dear friends with the owner and producer, Anita Mann, who's phenomenal. She wants some bigger tricks and illusions in the show, like big cutting in half boxes and really magical magic. Not all comedy, because the theater's a 1,500 seat theater, even though we're only allowed still 250 people in it. Mm-hmm. So that's when, during the pandemic, I started teaching Dani the tricks. She's not a magician's assistant. She never really wanted to be one. She's a dancer and a host. But because she is a dancer, she's flexible, and she was interested, I thought, well, let's do this. So we did it for fun over the pandemic. And then when Anita said, I want you to use the bigger tricks in the show, are you cool with that? I said, yeah. And I got Dani as well, who's down to do it. And she's also a professional dancer. So she even looks like the show and suits the show, you know? Yeah. So we're doing that 4 nights a week. Like this week, we have 3 shows a night, Thursday through Sunday. And it's great. And she loves the show until her show gets back and everything else. So it's been good, you know? Dani, does he still crack you up? Does he crack you up?
Oh, yes. All the time.
You look like this. I look like a Q-tip.
You don't look like you're from Canada, that's for sure.
I know, right?
No way. Okay.
It's been a lot of fun working with him too, you know, and just being able to be on stage in that capacity, because we've always done our own thing. So this is the first time that we actually get to be on stage together and you know, perform a little bit where, you know, we need to be with each other to do it. So, for example, with the illusions that he does, you know, usually you don't have an assistant that's 5'9" to put them in those tiny little boxes. so, you know, and we just have such fun and funny little moments. Like, you know, recently when I was in one of the boxes, there was like, a couple of different things happened. And so I'm in the box and I'm like, no, hold, like, 'cause there was a bright light coming through, and and he'll be like, "You okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, good, go." You know, we just have these little comical moments just because of what happens on stage. And then, we get down to the dressing room and we get to sit there together. And we used to get home from our own shows and talk about all the things that happened individually with our own shows. And now we get to talk about the individual things that happened within the act.
During the show, yes. So you guys can keep each other in check. It's the synergy. It's everything else. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, Dani, any young woman that wants to be getting in the entertainment business, okay, you got to be, consider social media. I mean, that's just a comparison game right there. Okay. And then there's like, oh, there's so many other people out there that want to do the same thing as me. And especially in the entertainment business. I mean, what can you give 1, 2, 3 takeaways of guidance for them, direction, or any kind of great takeaway?
Absolutely. I think one of the main things that I think people tend to forget a lot is be careful about burning bridges, because like any industry, it's very small. And when somebody gives you an inch, take that inch with so much gratitude and be grateful, because all it takes is to ruin one small opportunity, and then you get closed off from many other opportunities in this town. And I know it's like that everywhere. So I think it's remembering to say yes to everything, be grateful and genuine, sincere for the opportunities you are given. Leave a job properly, just like any job position, right? Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes performers take those things for granted and might have a little bit of the diva attitude and forget that. No matter what level you are, if you're a backup dancer down on Fremont Street or Bruno Mars, if you have gratitude and you're humble and you thank the people around you, I think that's life-changing. Mm-hmm. And obviously saying yes. And also you mentioned something earlier about setting intentions, because I tend to be one of those people, and I'm like, I want this in my life, and I'm gonna put that out to the universe. I'm gonna help manifest it. I've realized over the years that the more specific I am with setting those intentions, the less chaos I'll feel when they actually flood in. And I was telling a girlfriend about this the other day, and she was saying how, she wants a boyfriend, and she's had some terrible relationships in the past. And I said, well, don't just write down on your manifest list you want a boyfriend. Be very specific so that you don't get the same cycle. Say you want this boyfriend to do this, and not this, and be this. The more specific you are, then the better it comes to you.
Absolutely. Your mind will go search for that. I mean, that's what, when my clients are doing a business plan, I want financial freedom. What does that mean? Let's break that down. Do you want to save money for an income property? You have to be very specific. Give it a date, give it a number, give it a why. Exactly. Right. I love that. And you know what? I also, my nephew who is an actor now, and he's actually on the hit show Never Have I Ever, the Netflix series. Yeah. When I interviewed him, he said the same thing. He said, Tina, he, was always so respectful with the casting people. And, he shared that, he had gone on one casting and there was an actor that was, acting like a prima donna, and he whispered in his ear, man, you're not going to last very long here. You know what I mean? You have to be, but that goes, whether it's in your job, your personal life, or whatever, you've got to be respectful. Right. Yeah, absolutely. I love it. How about you, Murray? What do you got?
I don't know. I think a bunch of things, but I think whatever you're doing, do it as if you've got the job already. So, don't do things
like that. Yes.
So I know it's hard, because when you're motivated and you have a goal going, hey, I'm going to get this job. I'm going to be a surfboard instructor in the Bahamas, July 5th. Well, you have that goal, right? But when you want to be a surfboard instructor, but you have no Hawaii or no Bahamas to go to, it's very hard to get motivated. But you have to think about that and want that. So when you are teaching your local pool or whatever you're trying to do to become that person, do it full out and do it right, and do it the way you do it if you actually got paid real money, and do it full out. The same as me when I learn a new magic trick, and I tell people whether you're a dancer, singer, magician, juggler, musician, play that song like you're at Carnegie Hall. Do that comedy like you're at the Apollo Theater. Even though you're in your bathroom looking in a mirror trying to be good at whatever, pretend you are on that stage. Because that's the only way you can really meet the strength that you need to achieve and to be that person. If you're half-assed, you don't know whether you can do that. And also treat people the way you want to be treated. When I walk into a room, I consider myself very humble and laid back because I've done everything. I've been a busboy. I was a dishwasher. I fixed bikes. I've done everything. I've been with those people, and I could do those jobs again if I wanted to. I was good at them, because everything I did, I wanted to be the best at. So treat people the way you want to be treated. If you are a big star and you're getting a limo service and you're getting treated like great, when you walk by the janitor, say hello to him. He's got a family or she's got a family, and talk to the maid, even if they don't speak English. Then if you know a little Spanish, or whatever nationality, use their language. Be nice, look them in the eye, because they're the same person. We're
all connected, man. We're all one.
They're trying to put food on their table, trying to pay the bills. They have dreams and goals. They may not be as large as yours, but they have goals. It might be just to feed their kids. So don't ever disrespect that. So I've always lived my life that way, and then I'll never be satisfied to a point, and know when you're going to be satisfied. For me, I'm never satisfied. Like I said, I always want to own the company, and then when I own that company, I want to own 2 more companies. So, but for me, I've always wanted more. When I got a show on the Strip, I'd love to do 2 shows. Well, I'm doing that now. Do I want to be on TV? Yeah, I'm on 2 or 3 TV shows, but that's just the way who I am, and that's not always a good way to work either, because there does have to be a point where you go, enough's enough. Enjoy it for a little bit, relax. Like you said, enjoy your successes for a minute, sit back, because by the time you're dead, you look back and go, oh my God, I never got to relax.
It's already passed me by. But you said a lot of great things there. And it's like children. I mean, like in this book that Grant's talking about, he says, look at children. I mean, they're in massive action all the time. They're creative and stuff. And that's our natural state. So you know what? I think, workaholic, maybe you could take some time, take a step back and celebrate your success and praise and then reset and go on. But you know what? I don't, the whole goal is to be successful in every area of your life, to keep yourself going, because I'd rather have that than to be complacent. And the longer I'm alone with my thoughts, forget it. It's down to that bad rabbit hole. And I think that's like everybody, right? I mean, seriously, don't leave me alone for too long, right? Yeah. And the other thing you said, I love, Murray, is that you said, it's kind of like, this is my interpretation of what you said, is look at yourself as your future self. Even if it's in the bathroom, imagine yourself, your best self. How would you act? How would you be? How would you be performing? Right?
100%.
Yeah. Well, you guys are amazing. I can't wait to meet you in person. I'm going to be going to Vegas I'm going to say goodbye, and you guys stay on for a minute so I can say goodbye to you. Okay. So they can come, tell us where they can find, where can everybody find you?
All right. For me, you can find me at the Tropicana Hotel in Las Vegas. We have shows there nightly. Just go online. You'll see all the stuff there. And also in Fantasy at the Luxor, where they're nightly as well. And then she's over at Crazy Girls.
Crazy Girls at Planet Hollywood.
Okay. How much in advance do you have to book tickets at this point?
Well, Crazy Girls, we're still waiting as the state mandates are lessening to open back up. So hopefully in another month or 2.
Another month or 2. Okay.
Yep. And in the meantime, I'll be with Murray at Fantasy. And then you can also find me on Instagram at Dani Showgirl.
I was going to say, though, what's your Instagram?
Dani Showgirl.
Dani, Dani, by the way, right?
Yeah.
Showgirl. And Murray.
We have a web YouTube channel, which is Magic Murray. I do pranks and all that stuff on that as well. So
and we're going to put all that in the content after the show. So anyway, thank you guys for being on. Thank you guys for watching another episode. If you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, it's Tina Marx TV. And of course, the podcast is Transparent with Tina. I look forward to seeing you guys again next week.